Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. It's good to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And so when the attorney called, he said something about a presentation, so I do have it. I'm not going to go through the entire thing. I have made you a copy.
So Dr. Robinson, if you want to pass it out,
I'm going to do it at the end.
Okay.
But I do have it for you, so you'll be able to look at it as many times as you would like. Okay. I grew up in South Louisiana, in Equitable, and I spent the better part of my adult life on the East Coast. And so, although I am a native of Louisiana, I spent far more time away than I have actually lived here. But it is good to be home. And so I'm back home with my mom, and I kind of go back and forth to Atlanta, but I travel. And so I'm a former superintendent of schools. And I was an instructional director before I became a superintendent. And instructional director is basically an assistant superintendent position. I governed schools. I had a little over 10,000 scholars on my own, and in a district of 131,000. And so I have worked in small districts, I've worked in very large districts, I've worked in rural districts, I've worked in suburban and urban districts as well. I have done work with the Wallace Foundation, which is about school transformation. And I've also done some other things as well with the Harvard University group around school transformation, turnaround schools. I was an elementary principal. I've served as a teacher. I've served as an assistant principal. So I have K-12 experience, and I have governed K-12 experience. I've also published a book. I'm a published author, and I also am a consultant. And as you read through this, look at this presentation, I have made it very plainly clear and personal to who I am. But in the heart of all of that, I'm a servant leader. And so I believe in everything that I do is for the betterment of kids. And the decisions I make will always be about children. Well, why come here to Natchitoches? Very, very much like my hometown. Very small, very family oriented. The culture here, we are a university town as well. And so, although I have been away, I've never forgotten my roots. And so, in the heart of it all, I'm still a down South Louisiana boy. And I'm very confident in the skills that I have acquired over the years that I have worked in the various places that I've worked. Those skills will be transferable to Natchitoches, and I believe that those skills will help to strengthen the core academic foundation of this district so that our children can get the opportunities that they are well deserving of. And I also know that Natchitoches is a place where you guys are very famous for steel magnolias. And we are for a long hot summer. So there's some correlations there and as I was looking at data, you did improve in the DPS by 1.3%, so that is to be commended. And so you have to celebrate and let people know, and I'm big on celebrating students as well as the faculty and staff, and as well as the community and parents. And so as you look at the presentation, and I hope that you do take the opportunity to look at it, you will glean much of the work that I have done, and you will see a lot of the work that I have done. And a part of this presentation is not just a presentation, but it's a 90-day plan. And so I'll go directly to that. And in the 90-day plan, it basically breaks it down by culture and climate, and it lists some of the things that I'm going to do in the first 90 days that I'm here. But before I actually would begin an execution of this work, I would bring to you, the board, a plan of how I'm going to go about accomplishing that work, for your approval and for your input and suggestions and recommendations on how that might be best executed so that we can be effective in getting the work done. It's no sense in doing something if it's not going to be effective. And so also about teaching and learning, I'm very heavy into data. And I'm not a superintendent, I'm a former superintendent, but I am not one who will sit in an office. And so if you are looking for me, you're going to find me in schools, because that's where I need to be. Looking to see what's happening in terms of the instruction, looking to see how leadership is working. And my job is to coach them so that they are able to do their jobs effectively. And the question that I always ask of them is, what do you need from me in order for me to help you get your job done? How can I be of support? Yes, I'm the superintendent, but I've been a teacher, I've been an administrator. I know what happens in schools, and I can be of support to you. So what is that going to look like? And so that helps them to develop, and that's some of the techniques and strategies that I used in my previous districts with administrators and teachers alike. We also talk about organizational effectiveness. Upon coming in, I certainly want to have an audit of finances, an audit of instruction, technology, and a complete overhaul audit of the district, because I want to know what I'm walking into. And then I need to be able to sit down and strategize as to how I can best effectively maneuver to get the work done. There is always good in every place you go. And then there are things that we need to work on. And as a part of coming in, that would help me to know what things are we doing well. Let's continue to do those things, and let's continue to celebrate those things. And then what things do we need to work on? And how do we go about doing that? And so I would certainly encapsulate you, the board, in that process. It would not be where I'm off doing something and you have, I'm very communicative. Probably will be overly communicative with you, but you're going to know every inch of what's going on in the district and what I'm doing and how I'm going about doing that, because I'll provide that to you in a weekly report. So as I said, the presentation, you will have it and you will be able to look at it. And it's very self-explanatory in terms of how and the whys. Then it also looks at personal leadership, which is for me, and how and what supports I would ask for in order to be effective as a superintendent here. But I grew up in South Louisiana. You're looking at someone who was a non-reader. My mother was a teacher. Comprehension was a problem for me, and so that's why today literacy is at the forefront of any and everything that I do, because the kids cannot read. I don't care who you are. I don't care what is your financial status. I've worked in districts where children have not had running water, to districts where children have lived in $300,000 and $400,000 $1 million homes. I've covered a whole spectrum. That means nothing to me. What means something to me is, can they read? Because if they cannot read, they will never be able to be successful. And we want to produce more graduates and increase our graduation rates. And as you look in this presentation, you'll also see that I have had an opportunity to tap into data. And I have looked at where we are as a district. We're a C district, but we're not going to stay there. All right, because I'm very competitive and I believe in being a number one. And so it's not going to happen overnight, but as long as you're supporting me and being there with me as a partner in the process, I will partner with the community. I will partner with other stakeholders, but most importantly, I'm going to partner with our parents and our school leaders and teachers, because I know it's like to be a teacher, and it's not easy. And it's not easy to be an administrator as well, and so they need support, because sometimes what comes to them, they can't fix. They can only do what they can do, and so we have to do the best that we can in moving from a C to a B to a B to an A. And so that's why I'm here, excited and looking forward to the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Dr. Robinson, we're at the point where we will break into our questions.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions about our format?
No, sir.
Great. Mr. Garner.
Yes, sir. How are you effective professional development program effective track for employees?
You have the question.
You have the question.
I'm reading it. Yes. One of the things, so I look at new employees, and please forgive me because I'm an old English teacher and I have a habit of sometimes using my hands, but I'll try not to. But one of the things we have to look at is we have to look at new employees and we also have to look at current employees. And their needs are very different. And although they have been on the job a while, we still have to differentiate what that professional development is going to look like for them. One of the things that you hate the most as a teacher or an administrator is sitting in something that you don't need and wishing you had something that you don't have. And so it's important to hear. And one of the things that I will do as superintendent is conduct various stakeholder meetings, and I do meetings with teachers. I'm a very hands-on superintendent. I was a very hands-on principal, very hands-on teacher. But one of the things that I will do is definitely have meetings often where I'm listening to teachers, I'm listening to administrators, I'm listening to students because I talk to them too, and I do refer to them as our scholars. But one of the things that you need to make sure you have is a very strong process for new and onboarding employees. So I like to refer to it as PEAK, Professional Educator Induction Program. And you may be already doing some of these things, but I'm speaking in a general sense that it's important for us to have something for our new teachers where we have support. And that professional development, I can tell you now that some of the professional development that we will have, because that's an area of expertise for me, is something that I probably would be assisting and helping those that are guiding that work at the district level to ensure that we're meeting the needs of all employees. I'm talking about the cafeteria workers as well, whether it's custodians, whether it's bus drivers. We also need to have professional development for them as well. I'm very inclusive, so I don't exclude anyone when it comes to professional development. But what is that going to look like? It's going to be differentiated based upon the needs that those groups have, but also based upon the initiatives that the district is rolling out. So for example, if we're rolling out a new literacy program, well, certainly I'm not going to necessarily have a custodian in that, but I will tell you this, I'm not going to exclude them from being included in that process, because even when they're in the hallways, I want them to be asking kids questions, and we can teach them how to ask those questions. And it doesn't have to be something extraordinary. It could be something very specific and very quick that because they are educators. Even though they may not be in the classroom, they're our cafeteria workers. And so we need to make our hallways have learning throughout and accentuating throughout the whole entire building, so that everybody is a part of the learning process. Everyone is a part of the teaching and learning process. So when it comes to professional development, that is going to be differentiated based upon the needs of the district, based upon the needs of the individual stakeholder groups. And then we will look at continuous professional development, because what you don't want to do is have professional development at the beginning of the summer, or the beginning of the school year, and then it's disconnected from the work that's happening throughout the year. So when we look at strategic planning, we need to make sure that a part of the strategic plan, we're talking about how we're going to spend money, because money is tied to professional development. What does that look like? How is that going to be rolled out? And making sure that the process is there so that our teachers and our administrators are not overwhelmed or frustrated because they don't have a clue of what's going on. So when we're planning it, they need to be at the table so that they can be a part and give voice to the work that's going on.
Thank you. Excuse me, any follow-up? Ms. Palmer?
What is your experience with improving a school or a school district? What steps would you suggest for Natchitoches Parish?
So this is an area where I know for sure I really excel. I have been a turnaround principal, transformational principal at the elementary level. I've been a turnaround transformational principal at the middle school level. The district took us to Harvard University, which was one of the best things that they could have ever done. I did it in my previous district because a lot of times the professional development that sometimes we do locally may not necessarily always address the needs that we have. It doesn't mean that we have to go off somewhere, but because I've had the experience and I'm trained to train, then I can train those who will be actually executing and doing that work. Or they would have opportunities where they can go, learn, and then come back. But it's important that we understand what the big picture looks like. And when you're talking about transformational work, it's quick, it's deliberate, but it's purposeful. And so for some people, that does become very overwhelming. And you have to look at who is sitting in what positions on the bus. If they're in a position, case in point, I'm just saying, for example, if you have a school that has been an F school for 3, 4, 5 years, and that leader has been there, my first question to that leader is, let's talk about the data. What do you see and what do you wonder? Because I'll share what I see and what I wonder. And then I want us to sit down and talk about, what can I do to support you? What does that look like? How is that gonna feel to you? Because at some point, the fire is gonna get a little hotter because we have to move forward. Look, if we don't do something different, if we keep doing what we've always done, you're gonna keep getting what you've always gotten. And if we keep getting what we've always gotten, our kids are not moving. So when it comes to industry coming to Natchitoches, they come to industry goes where there are great schools, where there are great school districts. They do not come to places where the schools are not doing as well as they could, because when they come, they're bringing their families sometimes, but they're also bringing their employees who have families, and they want them in good schools. And so I want our kids to stay in our public school system. I don't want them having to go to another place or feeling that they have to be homeschooled or whatever that might be to that parent. I want them to know that when you come to Natchitoches Parish Schools, that you're getting a quality education that will take your child anywhere he or she wants to go to college in America. And so when it comes to transformational work, that's what I thrive on. That's what I do. That's what I'm known for transformation. And so it doesn't happen overnight, but it is quick, it is deliberate, and it is purposeful. And so a lot of people sometimes think that they know what that looks like, but if you have not had that experience, I've been a principal. As a transformational principal, I know what that looks like. And I've been a superintendent and an instructional director, which is sort of an assistant superintendent in governing schools and principals who were in those schools. So I know what that work looks like. And it's not easy work, but it is so rewarding when you see the transformation happening. It's not gonna happen overnight, but when it begins to happen, when it begins to blossom, they're gonna feel better about themselves. The students are gonna feel better about where they come to school, and the community will receive it a whole lot different. Thus, industry will come here. And when that happens, then you see a thriving economy.
Any follow?
Which one is more difficult, elementary or middle school in transfer?
I've worked at all 3 levels. I was also a high school assistant principal of curriculum and instruction. Started the very first 9th grade academy, freshman academy. That's what my doctoral work is on, student transition. And so we were trying to reduce discipline, increase attendance, but also increase achievement. And I'll tell you that each level has its own uniqueness. Each level has its positives and its negatives. believe that as a former elementary teacher and a former elementary principal, I've been a middle school teacher as well, but I believe that elementary is one of the most difficult, and I'll tell you why. I'm very highly focused on what happens in K to 2. And so in K to 2, it is important that you have the strongest and the most dedicated teachers in those 3 grade levels. Because it is in 3rd grade when students begin to start taking the LEAP test, okay? But there are also assessments that kids are taking in K to 2 as well. But we need to make sure that students are reading on or at or above grade level. There is no reason for a child to be going to 3rd grade and still not reading on grade level, because it's going to impact math, it's going to impact their analytical skills to do social studies, as well as science. And I've taught various subjects. So it's important that we understand the uniqueness at every level. But if we send them from the elementary school to the middle school, ill-prepared, cannot read, and we're just moving them, I can assure you that those middle school teachers, it's drama every day for them, because they are struggling trying to catch them up. And after 2 or 3 years, it's most difficult. I mean, it's a struggle. So you gotta have safeguards in place. What does that look like as a safeguard? So one of the things that I did is we had promising scholars, which was just a nice name for our 2nd graders, to encapsulate those 2nd grade students. We also put additional support where we had literacy teachers who were supporting the classroom teacher around those small groups. And small group instruction is very effective if it's taught to the teachers and shown how to do it the right way, because some people think they can do small group instruction and then some are actually doing it. But when it is really done the way it's supposed to be done, based upon data, and you have the students grouped, then you're able to move the achievement level. And I have worked with children who come from low poverty areas. And I've worked with children who have been all the way up to $1 million homes. And guess what? They're all the same. Because if I can't read, it doesn't matter how much money my mom has or my dad has. If I can't read, I'm still going to be ineffective, whether I live in $1 million home or a shack.
Thank you.
So,
Go ahead.
the experience that you've gained seems to be a lot along the way. And I've heard a statement made that all children can learn, that they have obstacles that prevent them from learning. So if there's an issue with the curriculum or support or resources and tools, that's some of the issues that we run into in this parish. You would be willing to take whatever actions are necessary to remedy.
Absolutely. And that's what I was saying. The first thing that I would do is to do an audit of the curriculum, because I need to see where we are with the curriculum. I know throughout the state right now, in some districts, they're using a particular math program. And the math program that some of the districts I know are using, because it is recognized by the state, the effectiveness of that program, I do think that it is something that we need to look at. And the reason I'm saying that is because for a brand new teacher, phenomenal, because it helps that teacher is because they're not used to the process of planning lessons. So it's great for that. But when it comes down to working with children who need that additional support, like I was saying in the 2nd grade, we had additional teachers there for literacy. I also had them working with math as well. But when you have a prescribed program that is not effective for all students, you have to look at that. And you have to make sure that the curriculum that you're using is going to be representative of the children that it's going to be teaching. And the teachers need that support and that professional development, and also the administrators. And so built into the schedules has to be time for planning, which we call collaborative planning. It has to be, because and the administrator, I'm talking about the principals, the assistant principals, the instructional people, They need to have themselves in those meetings, not running them, but they need to be in there because they need to be looking at what's going on and they need to be able to help their teachers and give them support and coach the teachers along, because ultimately what you want in collaborative planning is for the teachers to actually control those meetings. That's really what you want. It might not start off that way, but eventually you'll get to that process. But absolutely, we definitely need to look at curriculum. And the materials that are being used, that's what I'm talking about, the money. How are we spending money? And how is that tied to our strategic plan, the goals that we set? Because those goals of the strategic plan are goals that, as a superintendent, I would be looking at the data, but I would be bringing that to the board. Because the board then needs to say, well, you know, just as you told me, one of the goals might need to be around curriculum instruction or student achievement because this is an issue for us. So that's where I take that back to the team and we begin to work on strategies to address that particular goal.
Dr. Robinson?
Yes, sir.
We're 25 minutes
Okay.
into your hour and we're just completed question 2.
Yes, sir.
So
By all means, please tell me and I'll move on.
Well,
Yes.
I'm letting you know.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
What experience do you have with budgets, and how do we ensure that we're being fiscally responsible with our financial resources, and how do we communicate that to the board and the community stakeholders?
Yes. One of the things that I do with budget, I like to start budget very, very early, even though I may not have the numbers, and I know that school may have just started. But somewhere around October, November, I like to begin the process of budget for the new and upcoming school year. And the reason for that is because the process happens so fast when it does happen, you don't have time to get input. So I like to start early because I do like to have community meetings around budget where we can talk to our parents. I don't have a problem going out as I've done in the past, going out into the community, going to churches or halls where we can talk about and get input from them. Now, does that mean that just because we had that meeting, that means that we're going to do every single thing that was said in the meeting? Not necessarily, because sometimes certain money has to be used a certain way. But we would explain the process, all of the pots of money that we have, your Title I funds, your NSL dollars. Whatever those pots of money may be, that's what I'll be explaining to the community so they understand. Because sometimes, for example, they'll say, well, you're hiring all these people, but yet you don't have this. Well, it's because I'm supposed to spend the money out of that particular pot and I can spend it on that. For example, when I did the additional teachers, I was able to use title funds. I didn't, because I don't like touching, if it is all possible, the general fund. I don't like to touch the general fund unless it is something that I have no choice but to do. But that's why I like to lean towards the federal dollars and the other pots of money, grant monies and those types of things. But then we have a process and a timeline. I would also meet with the board and get your input on your suggestions and recommendations, and then I take that to the team. We sit down, we talk about it, we do the budget, and then of course we would take it back to the community. Let them see what we've done, and then we come back to the board and talk about that as well. Site-based budgeting is one of the things that I like to do, but that is a process that you just can't walk in and do overnight. That's something you have to grow to that point. But I like for principals to be able to give some input on how they would like to spend certain pots of money that is allocated to them. But again, it all goes right back to the strategic plan and their school level plans. Because you can't just be spending money because you just like this new program and I want a new program. What does the data say and what does our plan say? And is that what we're saying? Is that what we said we were going to do?
Let's begin.
Dr. Robinson, good evening.
Yes, ma'am.
What steps will you take to establish good public relations and communication plans with all stakeholders in the district?
So on a weekly basis, I send out a electronic newsletter, and I send it out to the district, but I also send out to the community, because if it's something in the newsletter that I don't think should be public knowledge, then it won't be in there. But I try to email that out every week to all of our stakeholders, to you, the board. I do a weekly report. Not that you may ask me for one, but you'll get one. Because I want you to be aware of what I'm doing, the work that I'm doing every week, where I've been, the schools that I've been, what I've been doing. And so it is a little time consuming, but it at least keeps you informed. If something happens at a particular school, I'm going to send out a blast to the board, and then I'm going to start calling each of you individually to let you know. I don't do anything for one that I don't do for the other. That is something you never do. But I believe in keeping everyone informed and communicating. I love social media when it is used properly. So I am certainly one who will tweet out great things that I see happening in our schools. I also put that on Facebook as well. I had mine set to where we could not have all those comments, but you can see what we're doing. And then there was another platform for that, where parents or community could give me, suggestions, recommendations, blast me if that's what they want to do. But there was another platform for that. I believe in going in classrooms and just celebrating our teachers and our administrators. And so I call it feature teacher, feature administrator, and feature support staff member of the week. And I just walk in, cold, they don't know I'm coming, and we do a quick video, and then we upload that because we want to celebrate them and let them know thank you for what you're doing. We might not be able to give you more money, but certainly when people are in a culture where they feel appreciated and valued, they work harder. And so I'm very communicative in that aspect.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any follow-up, board member? Dr. Robbins, based on your knowledge, what do you perceive as the top 3 issues in our parish, and what is your plans to address them?
So academics is certainly something that I think that we need. Now, let me first and foremost say that there are schools in the district that are doing exceptionally well, and I congratulate you on that. But there are schools that are not. And so we don't want any of our schools feeling like the have and the have-nots. So we want all of our schools to be able to be at the top. And so academics is certainly something that, but again, that goes back to having those conversations with principals and teachers, looking at instruction, looking at data. And so I don't need someone else to go out into a school and tell me what's happening into a classroom. I'm gonna know that for myself. I know my teachers very well. And I can pretty much after a while tell you where they teach and almost what subject and almost what classroom they're in. So I'm very hands-on when it comes to that, but academics is certainly something that we need to continue to work on. We certainly need to also look at finances because it is important that we make sure that the money that we have, that we are adequately spending it based upon our plan. And if we don't have a plan, then we need to get a plan, because you shouldn't be spending money haphazardly and there is no plan that we're following. So the strategic planning process is it's our roadmap. And it's not just 1 year, but it's a 3 to 5 year long range plan. And we can always change things. We can always come back and say, that's not effective, it's not working. Okay, well, what is? Or what do you think might be? But that certainly is something that we would need to do. And then looking at culture to ensure, and culture is not just race, although I know that there is racial tension. It may not be to the magnitude or magnification of it, but I know that there is. But then we work together harmoniously. We come together and have a meeting of the minds and bring everything to the table. You're never going to please everyone, but if the masses, if the majority is satisfied, then I'm satisfied. But those will be some things that we would need to work on. And as I have read and inquired, those are things that were pointed out to me. So it's certainly, and no place is perfect. But like I said, we will work together. We will partner together and work to make this place what we want it to be.
Thank you for bringing up that strategic plan. That's so important, the success.
Yes.
Any follow-up, board members? Okay. Question 6, Ms. Bridgebell.
Dr. Robinson, what steps would you take to evaluate the current leadership positions within the central office? Please provide a time when you had to repurpose an employee to move to a more productive position.
Yes, as a part of the 90-day plan, which is a part of the presentation, and I have that for you guys. When I come in, I want to interview everybody in the central office that are in key positions. That is not to say that anybody is being moved, or I just want to know who you are, what your skill set is, to see if you're in the right space, in the right place. That includes school administrators as well. And then how can I support you? That doesn't mean, just because I'm asking to interview you does not mean that I'm not that type of person. And I'm very transparent. If there is an issue, if you, the board, tells me that there is an issue that has been glaring for a long period of time, I know that's something I need to immediately, within the first 2 days, I need to make sure that I get that addressed, or at least begin to start looking at that. But when we're talking about leadership, leadership is a process. And so we have to provide professional development to support people. Maybe I don't know how to do my job effectively. Maybe, I'm just saying, I don't know. But I'm just saying, maybe nobody has ever held me accountable. And accountability does not feel good, but I will do it. I'm gonna hold myself accountable because I know that you're gonna hold me accountable. And so when I come in, I want to interview everybody. And absolutely, it is not because I don't have any knowledge of anything. So I'm not coming in to go after something. I just want to know. Because you might be a middle school principal, and the more I talk, the more I visit your school, after that first year, I'm saying, you're misplaced. You would be a phenomenal elementary principal. I think that's where you would thrive, or vice versa. So it is a process. And through that process comes coaching, comes professional development. And if there should be a situation like I have had, where I had to move someone who was over curriculum, who absolutely shouldn't have even been on the bus. And I had to move them. So I had to place them somewhere where they could thrive and would not be in a place where they're going to do as much to harm the instructional level of kids. But everybody is not an instructional person. But where I placed that person, they were able to thrive and do well. But where they were was not the right place for them.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any follow-up? Mr. McQuarrie.
What experience do you have with transportation program, and how do you manage a contract system?
Yes, I had one of the best supervisors who really taught me everything that I didn't know in terms of transportation. We sat down every week and we talked about fuel costs, looking at routes, looking at buses. And one of the things that we did, because our buses were so old and we really didn't have money, so we looked at, and we bidded it out, but we looked at leasing buses. And that was going to be far cheaper for us over a long range period of time than it would have been to purchase a bus or two. And so making sure that there's a cycle, that the buses, transportation, technology, equipment, that is, because the first thing I went in asking for, let me have your technology plan. Let me have your transportation plan. They weren't used to that. They didn't know anything about what I was saying. It was stuff that they were doing, but didn't have it written down. I said, we need to put it in writing. And so we sat down, we developed a plan for all of that, so that we were able, because we had equipment that was breaking down that was 30 years old. But you see, if that had been addressed 15 years ago, we wouldn't, and we didn't have money. We were a declining enrollment district, and we were also fiscally in trouble. But we worked hard. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. And I worked with the state a lot because I was in a district that was already under state watch for academics, as well as that was one of the reasons why I was there and for the finances as well. And I had a great partnership, still very close to those people in Arkansas where I was. And so that's something that is important, but you have to know those contracts. And of course, you have a legal team, an attorney. I didn't have a whole team, but I had an attorney who was able to look at contracts, and I could ask questions too if it was something that I didn't know or I wasn't quite sure, because when I brought it to the board, I wanted to make sure that I had done all of the homework that was necessary.
Any follow-ups? Reverend Harris.
Dr. Robinson, we have a large African-American student population here in Natchitoches Parish. How do you foresee enhancing meaningful administrative positions for qualified African-Americans throughout our parish?
I'll say this, that it is important that people are equipped for battle. And what I mean by that is, I want the best people in all the key positions that are going to be, because it is not my district, it is our district. And I work for the board, but I work for the community. And so I want to ensure that everything that I do, and I know that you may not know me, but from my heart, this is the work that I do from my heart. And whatever I do is in the best interest of children. I don't make decisions and use that as a way to do what I'm going to do. No, if it's not good for kids, I'm not going to do it at all. And so having people in places in terms of administrative positions or key positions, if they do not, and that's why you have to have a leadership academy, which I have begun to start. You have to have a leadership academy so that you can train people. We didn't have a lot of money, so a lot of the stuff that you're hearing me say that we did, I was doing it in collaboration with other people in the district. I did not mind because I was in a small district. So, I had 4,100 students, but I came from a 131,000 district where I had 10,000, a little over 10,000 by myself. There were 15 of us that did what I did. But it's important that people are prepared for the position, because what happens is someone wants to be a principal one day. I had dreams and aspirations, so why would I kill your dreams and no one kill mine? So if that's your aspiration, then it's incumbent upon us to have professional development, to have academies within the district where people don't have to drive and go somewhere else. They can get it right in-house, and we can train and develop them to become the next leaders. That's what we should be doing, because nobody's going to be in this position forever. But you want to train people and have a plan where when somebody leaves, you got somebody who is qualified to move in and take that place. But I do believe in equitable opportunities.
Thank you.
Ms. Robinson.
Yes, why do you think schools in the same district have significant differences in academic progress and academic achievement? Please explain how you would address this, and if applicable, provide examples where you have done so.
You have to look at who's going to those schools. What neighborhoods, how are they zoned? Are all of the children from this wonderful neighborhood going to this school, and all of the children from the other side of the track going to that school? Because when you look at that, already you have a disparity right there. Now, am I saying that we should mix it? No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that you have to look at who's going where. And then you have to look at who's teaching in those schools. Do you have all the wonderful teachers teaching over here in this school, while you have all these brand new teachers teaching in a school that's already an F school? That probably shouldn't be what should be happening. You probably need to administratively transfer some of these teachers over here, but that's easier said than done. But you have to look at the discipline. You have to look at support for teachers, because some teachers will tell you, Now, if you want me to go over here, where the kids are a little bit different, and when I say different, I'm talking about behavior-wise, then you need to provide me some support. And so before you just move somebody into that school, you need to talk to those people and develop a relationship and a partnership with them so that you're not just dumping them over there and saying, go make those kids great. That's not the way it happens. And so when you're looking at that great divide, that disparity, you have to look at where the social economic situation, you have to look at their social situation, you know, and what programs are over here that are as compared to this school over here. You know, what initiatives is happening here, and who's leading that building? Because if that is that person's attitude and mindset, is that it, can they handle that? They might be in the wrong place on the bus. So you might need to have a different type of leader over here leading that school, because I don't care if they're in poverty or not. They can learn and they can excel. But if you have the wrong mindset, the wrong people in that particular school, where they just go there every day, just because that's where they have to go, then already you have a problem. But we need to sit down and look at the data, and we need to be prepared to have that big elephant that sits in the room. We need to be able to chop it down piece by piece and talk about it. And not talk about it in a way that we are at each other, but talk about it constructively and how can we work together and collaborate together to make, because these parents over here pay taxes just like these. And they're paying probably higher taxes because they chose to live in a certain area as opposed to where these people can afford to live. But we still have to make it equitable. So if I'm going to have computers over here, I'm going to have computers over here. So whatever I'm doing here, I'm going to do here. But the difference is the data speaks that I may need to have additional supports over here that they don't need over there. Okay?
Thank you.
And I have done that, but yes, I'm speaking from experience.
Ms. Katrina.
Hello. What will you do to increase dual enrollment and jumpstart pathways?
Yes, it's important for us to, I'm very big on the CTE process, career and technical education, because for many of our children, it's their meal ticket, and that's going to be how they're going to make their living when they leave us and go into the workforce. We also need to look at how we're receiving students. Do we have adequate pre-K and programs that are going to support when I was in another district, we also had the Judy Hoyer program, which was developed by Senator Hoyer in another state where I worked, and it was for students who were 3 years old. It was before they go to pre-K. But we need to look at the whole big picture. Of course, affordability, money drives it all, but we need to look at how we can support that so that we can expand the spectrum of bringing kids in earlier before kindergarten, because it is evident and data tells you that, and research tells you that if they come in earlier, the earlier we get them, the more we can develop their minds, the better they're going to be when they get to kindergarten. And those poor kindergarten teachers are not struggling trying to do what should have been done between 0 and 5. And then when we get the CTE, when we look at the Jumpstart program, that means that I, as a superintendent, which I have done in the past, I was working with the Chamber of Commerce on a huge initiative that was happening in the district before I left, where we had industry. I went and I met with the Chamber of Commerce one morning, didn't know who I was talking to, just was invited to come and speak about what my vision was for the district and where we're going. Had no clue that I was sitting there talking to millionaires. None at all, because I had not been given that information. And they asked me, you have a great plan. We're behind you 100% because we want to redevelop our community. We want to bring industry here. They didn't look like people millionaires, but they were. But they said to me, who's going to roll out this plan for you? Because that's the problem. So again, going back to developing those leaders. I've got to have the support for teachers so that we can have these types of programs. And so for me as a leader, I'm going to go out there and talk to industry leaders and business owners about our children being able to have internships and all those kinds of things. But if we as a district does not have that relationship with the community and with the industry leaders, we have to do that, because if we don't, nothing that we're going to do is going to be successful. And we need the community, and we need industry leaders and business leaders. And because we need them and they need us. Because when we produce what they need, they're able to provide more jobs in our community. Thus, that's economics for us.
Peter.
Ms. Robinson, what steps could you take to improve teacher and leadership morale that would not include additional funding?
Celebrating people doesn't always require money. Like I told you, I did the featured teacher, the featured support staff member, the feature administrator, little bitty things like that. People want to know. It's important to people to know, do you care as the superintendent? Do you really care? Or are you sitting in that little glass house up there just kind of looking down upon us? And do you really know what I'm going through in this classroom when I have 35 kids in a class, not enough materials, not enough paper? Do you really understand that? Because I do. And so that's the reason why I have those meetings with the teachers. I have various stakeholder meetings, just like I meet with community people and community leaders and business leaders. I also meet with administrators, aside from the academies, their professional development academies, but I also meet with teachers and parents as well. And sometimes those meetings are not pleasant for me to sit in. But guess what? That's what you wanted to do, meaning me. Now sit there and listen to what they're saying, because they're telling you how they feel. Now you need to take it back and figure out how you're going to strategize what they're saying and how you can make some of those things happen for them. I may not be able to give you a raise. I may not be able to give you a bonus, but you're asking me for a new computer. I should be able to figure out how I can do that. It's those types of little things, those little touches that teachers look at in terms of morale. You know, sometimes I may say, hey, I'm going to be at this particular restaurant. Anybody that want to come now, I can't afford to pay for everybody, but you know, I may say, okay, if the bill is $100, I'll catch the first 100 or whatever. But it's those little things. They just want to know, are you human? And do you care? And can we touch you? Can we really just touch you? Yes, and you can.
Dr. Robinson, thank you for those answers. We're at the moment now for your closing remarks.
Okay.
I think you have 8 minutes for that. So.
I won't be 8 minutes.
Okay.
I promise you. I want to do something very quick. I'm going to call out a word, an adjective. I want you to tell me if that word is you. And forgive the pens that won't stay on the envelope, but it's write the vision and make it plain. So forward thinking. So in your packet, I have provided you with, and please take time to read it, but I provided you with a drive that has my, these are on it, my curriculum, my resume, my cover letter, that kind. But I also have a video on here, so that long after I'm gone, you can look at me.
Thank you.
Okay, but no, you can get a little bit more of a glimpse of the type of work that I've done and things that I've done in the past. Mindset.
Good mindset, bad mindset.
You? Thank you. Okay. Teamwork.
That would be me.
That would be you.
We got 2 teams.
Yes, sir. Okay. Grit.
Ms. Willis.
What is it? That is not me.
like, you know, boys. That's okay, that's how my dad was, so I moved here. That's right, that's how my dad was. Passion. I know that, I'm looking right at you. It's amazing how you can kind of size up someone, but I can look right at you, very passionate, I can tell. And that's a great thing. Faith.
I'll take that.
That's
Yeah.
Collaboration. Collaboration. With somebody else like, mindset? Okay. Data driven. I'm looking right at it. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it. I can expect that phone call that says, I want to get that data on whatever it is. Can you provide that?
Yes, you can.
Strong beliefs. That's you. I know.
Thank you.
Vision.
Oh, Trey. I have forward
He's doing it.
thinking.
He's doing
Leadership.
Well,
Perfect, thank you. And Dr. Robinson, I want to appreciate the comments you made about children not being on grade level and middle school teachers pulling their hair out. That is so true.
I was a middle school teacher. Did I get everyone?
You did.
So the last one is fortitude. Much like the grit, I have fortitude. And it's going to take each adjective, each word that we put in action to move this district forward. We cannot do what we've always done and expect to get what we were asking for. It's going to take something different. I know that I'm outside of the district. I know I'm an outsider. But I am from Louisiana, back home. But I would love the opportunity to come and do the work with you, to partner with you to help move this district. Our children deserve the best. And I'm looking for a place not to come and stay for a year, 2 or 3. No, I'm looking for somewhere to come and sit for a while. When I was in my previous district, I purchased a home there, and the intention was for me to remain there. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity and hopefully get the opportunity to work with each of you. And I want to thank you for the opportunity today and for thinking enough of me to ask you to come. And so I just want to let you know that my heart is in this work, and this is not lip service. And who you see today is who you're going to see on the first day and every day. Thank you.
Dr. Robinson.
Yes, sir.
I'll give you an indication on our schedule. March 3rd, we will have a meeting.
Yes, sir.
And we will at that time return to our finalists meeting.
Yes, sir.
March 4th, you can expect a call, and if you will or not for the result.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. I understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend. I know it's the long time. For those that like Mardi Gras. So enjoy.
Thank